Today's lesson, 2.2 day 2, we're going to talk more about maximum and minimum and how we can use that to graph and describe our quadratic functions. Here's some vocabulary that we have spoken about and some that is slightly new and maybe some that we talked about, but we're going to expand on it. So domain, all possible x values. Range, all possible y values. Minimum, we talked about it being a low point. And we also talked about our a being able to show us that in standard form. When I'm talking about my a, I'm referring to it in standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c. So if this a right here is positive, then it's a happy parabola, and that creates this low point, which is called a minimum. When I have a maximum, we have a high point, and that happens when my a is less than 0, meaning my a is negative. Negative a is a little sad and down, and so we have this upside down parabola, or upside down U shape, and then we have a max that it creates, a max value there. We're also going to talk about increasing and decreasing. Increasing occurs when the x value increases, and so does the y value. So maximum example right here is a great example of that. I always start from left to right when I read sentences, and I do the same with a graph. So start on the left-hand side, and I can see as I'm going to the right, that graph goes up as well. That's increasing. Now I hit my turning point, my vertex, and my x is still going to the right, still increasing, but what happens to my y is it decreases. And so when x is increasing, but when y starts decreasing, that function itself is decreasing. So I have directions here, okay, that, remember, these directions are also on Google Classroom under Graphing Calculator Instructions. I think that's the document I called it. I also wrote them on the whiteboard here, so when I scooch up, you still have a reference here, okay? So on this guy, I'm going to zoom in here. We have f of x equals 1/2 x squared minus 2x minus 1. We're going to go into our graphing menu for both Casios and TIs. Plug that guy in for your y1, okay? And graph it. From there, we kind of go two different ways to find our minimum, depending on what calculator you have. If you have a Casio, you're going to be hitting F5, which is G-solve. And depending on what we need, a min or a max, we'll decide what we choose, F2 or F3, all right? Now, we talked about our A value, so I'm gonna, before I even graph it, since I don't have a graphing calculator right now in my hand, we talked about our A value. If it's positive, you have a parabola that's happy. And so anytime I have a positive, I'm gonna always have a low point, so that means we are finding our min. So Casios, make sure you're selecting min. TIs, same idea. You guys are going to graph it. TIs, you'll go second, hit the trace button because it says calc above it. Anytime we're trying to calculate something from our graph, that's the menu we go to for TIs. After that, you have option 3 is min. That's what we're selecting here. Option 4 would be a max, but if we don't need a max, we don't select it because it'll mess us up, okay? Okay, so my sketch kind of looks like this. So that's kind of what it should look like. It's kind of off-center to the right and down a little bit, okay? Again, we have this minimum value, okay? Because we have a low point. So in order to find that, Casios, you hit G-solve, select min. TIs, it's a little bit more intense, okay? So try and follow as best you can as I'm talking. Sorry. I'll help you individually as well, okay? So if you ever need help, just call me over. So we're going to go into second trace button at the very top. Second, and then hit your trace. You should have options like 0, value. The third option should be min. Select min. And then it's going to ask you, it'll say down here, left bound, question mark. Well, we have to move to the left. So you're going to use your left arrow to move to the left and hit enter. Again, this is just for TIs, okay? And it'll place a little kind of X or sometimes they place an arrow at the top, depending on your TI. I'm going to zoom in for my TI explanation. After you hit enter, this will change to right bound. Well, what direction do you think we're going to move then?
Right.
To the right. Use your right arrow, okay? Get blinky dot to the right of your vertex, okay? We're going to the left first, then we're going to the right of the vertex second. Hit enter, and again, you may have like an arrow, you may have an X up here, you may have a line, like a dotted line up here. Depends on your type of TI. The last thing, after you hit enter, this whole thing will change to guess. Guess. And that is when we put an X right on the vertex where we think it is, hit enter, and then it will change this guess to say min or minimum, and they'll give you an X value and a Y value, okay? Cassius, what did you get for your min? 2, so 2 for the X, -3 for the, okay. So Cassius gave them 2 and -3. It's okay, I don't want my TIs to panic. If you get something like this, 2.000008, okay? Or 2.00003. Can we safely round that to 2? Okay, here's another one I saw with TIs, depending on your calculator. One TI gave them 1.99998. Can we safely round that to 2, okay? So TIs are all different. I don't have control on how they show you the number. Sorry, but if it's something like this, round it off, okay? And if I want it not to be to the nearest whole number, I will specify clearly, hey, round this to the nearest 10th, or round this to the nearest 100th. If I don't specify, let's safely assume we're rounding it to the nearest whole number. Can we agree on that for graphing? Okay, awesome. So I'm gonna round this out to 2 here. Okay, so now, my min, what they gave me, I know it says minimum, but technically they gave me my vertex, my 2, -3, which we talked about the other day, all right? That whole thing is not the minimum value. I'm going to tell you right now, all right? The minimum value is the low point. When I drew my line and wrote min here, what axis did I pass? The y-axis. So guess what? Our minimum value is always just that y value. So our minimum value is -3. So now, they want to know domain and range. We talked about that the other day. If this graph was like a curved piece of like crowbar type of material, steel, and we like just hulked it out and straightened it out, it would point forever left and right. That's our domain, okay? If it's every single number, what do we say? All real numbers, good. Use that symbol for all real numbers. That's our domain. Our range, we also talked about the other day. Is my graph pointing up forever or down forever?
Up forever.
Up forever. So we always start y greater than or equal to if it's up, okay, if it's pointing up. What is the lowest y value there? -3. Okay, I want to point something out. What do you notice about the minimum value and the range value that we used? They're the same. Guess what? That's never going to change. They will always match, okay? So if they don't match, we made an error somewhere, okay? We just have to fix it. No biggie. Last 2 things. They want to know when is it increasing and when is it decreasing. Okay, so always start on the left, just like reading a sentence. So start here, okay? Or start left, however way you want to write that. But I'm starting on the left side of my graph. I'm going to zoom in on this so I can kind of just focus on there. Am I increasing or decreasing as I trace down? Decreasing, good. Now, once I hit my vertex, by definition, we called that a change of direction, a turning point the other day. So once I hit that vertex, it stops decreasing. We also talked about our AOS the other day. I know my y value is -3 at the vertex. What's my x value there? 2, okay? that is used to describe my decreasing and increasing. So I'm going to use my x value of 2 to describe this. Now, my decreasing, if I'm looking at this vertex right here, okay, is that decreasing area to the left of that or to the right of that? To the left. Think about all the numbers on the x-axis that are to the left of 2. Are those bigger or smaller than 2? Smaller. So we write x is less than 2. That is when it's decreasing. So now we change direction because we hit that vertex. So now if I trace upward, what are we doing? Increasing. Okay, so on this side, it's increasing. I'm still referring to my x. I'm still talking about that turning point of 2, but this time, where is my increasing section located? Is that to the left or to the right of that 2? To the right. To the right. Are those numbers bigger or smaller? Bigger. Bigger. So what would we say? Yes, bingo. All right, so when I'm describing this function decreases when x is less than 2 and increases when x is greater than 2. All right? Let's do another one. You ready? I think I have. Yep, there we go. I think I want to do the third one. Is that okay? Yeah. Just for time's sake, okay? Let's do the third one. Ooh. Let's do this one, only because my third one's a negative, and I really want to make sure you guys get 2 types seen, okay? And I want to give you time for homework too today. So we have f of x equals negative x squared plus 8x minus 6. So clear out your old one, type this new one in, okay? I'm just sketching it, not drawn to scale here, just so you guys can kind of see, like, yes, it should be up and kind of to the right, okay? Do we have a min or a max value this time? Max, yes, good. This max value, let's find it, okay? So when you go through that process, whatever you have, TI or Casio, when you hit your max, it should be 4, 10. 4 for our x value, 10 for our y value. So out of which one of those is our actual max value? 10, yep, okay. Domain, what do we say? All real numbers, good. Range, this time, before we had it pointing upward, right? And that was y is greater than or equal to. Now, which direction is our graph pointing forever? Down. So what do you think it would be? Y is less than or equal to 10. Awesome, good. Why did you choose 10? Yes. So many, right? It's all the above, right? It matches the max value we already found. It's the highest point that we were talking about. All of those. Yes, yes, yes. Okay? Excellent. So, just like before, we start on the left, just like reading an English sentence, okay? I'm starting, I want a different color. I'm going to start here. This is the first point that I can see on my graph that's the furthest left. So if I trace this upward, am I increasing or decreasing? Increasing, yes. So my increasing, I go until I hit this vertex. What value is that vertex at? That x value? 4. Okay, so we say x is something with 4. Well, let's look. Here's my 4. Here's where it's increasing. Is that to the left of 4 or to the right of 4? And what does it mean? Left. And so what symbol do we use? Less. Awesome. Okay, if it's to the left, it's less. Left, less, right? Okay, hit the turning point. Now it changes direction. Now we are decreasing. Okay, we still use the x and the 4. But this time, instead of being on the left, we're on the right. What do we do with that symbol? Greater than. Yes. Okay, and box it. this little homework tip. The increasing, decreasing part is easier on the homework. I'm pretty sure it's just multiple choice. Make sure you know how to draw it in because our quizzes and our tests are not multiple choice, nor are they on the computer. So you'll need to be able to figure it out the way we did it in our lesson. And then number 7 just has a text box where you explain your answer. Just tell me why you chose it. That's all. Just quick, short, and sweet. It's fine. Okay? Let's get homework going the rest of the time. On here, I want to kind of make another little side note. Some graphs, you may have to zoom in or out. On your TIs, there's directions for zooming on Google Classroom, but there is a zoom button at the top of your TI near all your graphing buttons. On my Casio, you also have a zoom button. It's one of those smaller, I think it's F2 for you guys. And you can zoom in or out standard, and so you can readjust it so that way you can actually see the whole U shape. Casios, you usually, you can do this, but you can find the min or max without actually seeing the end of your, like the U shape of your graph. That's just a user-friendly piece that Casio has. TIs, you have to see the entire U shape. If you don't see this U shape, TIs, you can't do that min or max. And so you have to zoom out. You really don't have a choice with that one. And I think there's only 1 or 2 examples like that.